Just 100–200 years ago, it was generally believed that men are the smartest creatures on this planet. But, soon women received equal rights. Many of them took up science and proved that they are no more stupid than the stronger sex. In our world, there are smart or just smart and quick-witted women, and there are women with an exceptionally high level of intelligence. In terms of IQ, they surpass even the famous Albert Einstein, and Stephen Hawking. Of course, they were not so famous, despite the fact that they made a colossal contribution to the development of the world and their countries. Who are these women? Actually, this top is dedicated to them. 8th place, Olivia Manning, IQ 162. Olivia Manning. 12-year-old British schoolgirl, Olivia Manning took an IQ test under the supervision of Mensa, and at her young age managed to score 162 points. For comparison, an adult-educated middle-aged man from a prosperous country has an indicator from 85 to 100. This beautiful teenage girl was able to score 162. The same result was achieved by Professor Stephen Hawking and the brilliant German physicist Albert Einstein. The latter has even 2 points below 160, which means that Olivia is one of the smartest people in the world. As a confirmed genius, Olivia is now gaining celebrity status at her school, Liverpool North Academy in Everton. Many more people turn to me asking for help with their homework. I just love challenges and forcing myself to think, said Olivia. 7th, Judith Polgar, IQ 170. Judith Polgar is one of the greatest female grandmasters in history. Judith has an extremely high IQ, 170 points, and is considered a true genius. Judith is the only woman who at least once defeated all the grandmasters she encountered, including Garry Kasparov and Viswanathan Anand. Judith Polgar was a child prodigy and managed to beat her first international grandmaster at the age of 10. At the same time, Judith Polgar is the only woman on this list without an academic education. 6th, Ruth Lawrence, IQ 175. Ruth Lawrence is a British professor of mathematics, a member of the American Mathematical Society, and a professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Ruth was born in 1971, and after a few years her parents realized that the girl was a real child prodigy. She won the Oxford entrance exam at the age of 11 and even became the youngest person to graduate from Oxford, and to this day, her record is not broken. She has made impressive advances in knot theory as well as in algebraic topology. Ruth Lawrence is known to have an IQ of 175, which is insanely high. 5th, Grace Hopper, IQ 177. Grace Hopper, or Grace Murray Hopper, with an IQ of 177 was an incredibly gifted American computer scientist. She was once considered the smartest woman in the world, and her contributions to computing are unmatched even today. Grace was one of the earliest programmers for the Mark I computer and developed the first compiler. She also worked on the COBOL and Fortran languages. Sadly, Grace died in 1992 at the age of 92. 4th place, Germaine de Stael, IQ 180–185. Born in 1766 in Paris, Germaine de Stael, better known as Madame de Stael, was a French public commentator, historian and social activist. Interestingly, she was the main critic and opponent of Napoleon. According to history, she literally hated him, which later even banned her from entering France. Madame Stael first went into hiding in Germany and then joined Goethe's circle. Her IQ was scored between 180 and 185 different tests, and overall she is considered one of the greatest minds of the time. having a significant impact on French literature in the early 19th century. It's hard to believe, but after more than 100 years, a girl was born who beat and this result. Third place, Maria Curie, IQ 188. Maria Sklodowska-Curie, being a Franco-Polish chemist and physicist. Mary changed the world not once, but twice. She founded the new science of radioactivity. Even this word was invented by her. It was she who, together with her husband, discovered the elements radium and polonium. She had an incredibly high intelligence score, namely, 188 points. This is precisely the reason why she received 2 Nobel Prizes in the field of not only physics, but also chemistry in particular. This is what her most famous woman in the field of science has done. During World War I, Maria helped equip ambulances with X-ray equipment and often took X-ray machines to the front lines herself. Even though she fell ill from working with radioactive materials, she never lost her resolve to succeed in the scientific career she loved so much. Maria's life was extremely difficult. On April 19, 1906, Pierre Curie, Maria's husband, was knocked to death by a horse-drawn carriage when he was crossing the street. The girl was in severe depression for several months. In 1910 to 1911, 4 years after the death of her husband, Curie had an affair with her longtime acquaintance, Pierre Curie's friend, physicist Paul Langevin. He was 5 years younger than Maria, married and had 4 children. During the affair, Paul's wife Jeanne got part of Maria's letters to her husband, and she began to blackmail both of them. Paul's brother-in-law, editor of Le Journal in Paris, published these letters. When the scandal broke out, Maria was at a conference in Belgium. Upon returning in front of her house, Curie found an angry crowd, so she and her daughters had to urgently hide with her friend. Curie's newspaper baiting began. Some newspapers wrote that she was Jewish, others that she was Russian or German. She was accused of atheism and the destruction of other people's families. At this time, Albert Einstein wrote Curie a letter of support. "If this rabble pesters you, just stop reading this nonsense. Leave it to the vipers for whom this story was fabricated." A. Einstein. Second place, Marilyn Vosavant, IQ 191. Marilyn Vosavant. It is very difficult to determine exactly how high IQ Vosavant is, since science knows a very small number of people with such intelligence, but the results of various tests show a minimum IQ of 191 and higher. American journalist, teacher and playwright. This genius woman, who at one time scored the highest number of points in the IQ test for which she got into the Guinness Book of Records. As a descendant of the famous physicist and philosopher Ernst Mach, Marilyn inherited an incredibly sharp mind from her ancestor, which to this day allows her to solve the most difficult puzzles, such as the Monty Hall problem and the two boys problem. Vosavant herself does not consider herself the smartest woman on the planet. She claims that intelligence includes so many components that attempts to accurately measure it are useless. First place, Edith Stern, IQ 206. Edith Stern, it is she who is considered the smartest woman on the planet Earth today. She rightfully takes first place in this list. Just listen attentively. At the age of 1 year I read scientific treatises. At the age of 4 I read the Encyclopedia Britannica. And this is for a second Wikipedia in paper version for 32 volumes, about 32,000 pages, more than 65,000 articles. At the age of 11 she entered the University of Michigan. At the age of 15, she began teaching trigonometry. She was a genius child, and even before she was a year old, she knew how to do calculations and speak whole sentences. Like other genius children, she received many degrees before she turned 18. She has over 128 U.S. patents in her name. In addition, Edith has received many different awards, including in the field of mechanical engineering and engineering. And it is not at all surprising that her IQ is about 200. And in 2015, Business Insider magazine named her one of the most gifted women of all time. And that's all. Thank you for watching. Well, according to YouTube tradition, I ask you to like it, and leave it at your discretion to subscribe or not. See you at the next issue.